Compared to a heart or a brain, a bone doesn't look like it has many stories to tell. I mean, a heart looks red and complicated. It's definitely alive. Bone, meanwhile, looks rather monotonous and lifeless, much like how you would envision concrete. But concrete is extremely important, and so is bone. As if propping you up isn't enough, bone has many other jobs that you wouldn't expect to be on its plate. Much of the how and why lies in the unique architecture making up your bones, which we shall examine in this video.
You see, buildings aren't really built with pure concrete alone. You have to reinforce it specifically with steel bars. Concrete can withstand enormous weight, but it breaks when you snap it down the middle. Steel would bend under enormous weight, but you don't simply break steel. When you combine steel and concrete, you get reinforced concrete which can withstand enormous weight and does not break easily. This is an example of what we call composite materials, which happen to include bone as well. Replace concrete with compact bone, steel with cancellous bone, and you get bone, except it's much more complicated than that. Let's get right into it.
From the outside, you may notice that bone is plain white and a bit concrete looking. That's compact bone you're looking at. It is not merely a single block of material, but a conglomeration of smaller columns called osteons. Each has a channel at its core that holds blood vessels, since blood tissues is also living tissue, and therefore need nutrients. Wrapping around the channel are alternating layers of composite material that is a mix of tough hydroxyapatite and flexible collagen. The special thing about this arrangement is that the fibers of one layer is often perpendicular to that of the next, and this means a lot for resilience. Imagine making a raft with two layers of parallel logs. If you align the two layers so that the logs of one lay perpendicular to that of the other, it is much harder to break the entire thing in half than to align the logs in the same direction. As clever as that may be, it is actually the channel system that takes the first hit upon impact. They are practically filled with liquid and are connected horizontally, hence channel system. Since water makes up a fifth of compact bone volume, that's actually a lot of liquid, so when the entire structure receives impact, the motion is more like continents shifting, just at a much smaller scale.
With that considered, compact bone is still the much harder component when you compare it to cancellous bone, which is tucked inside. Compared to compact bone, cancellous bone looks rather chaotic, but it is that way for a reason. The fundamental units of cancellous bone are called trabeculae, and they arrange themselves in a manner that actually makes sense when you look into it. Within long bones like the ones that make up your legs, trabeculae are aligned towards the mechanical load distribution that a bone experiences. This was exactly the same principle that inspired the Eiffel Tower, which maximizes strength and minimizes weight. Inside both compact and cancellous bone, a construction team of special bone cells work round the clock, modifying the architecture to suit whatever it is that you are subjecting your bones to. Once again, this shows that bone is very much living tissue, and even more so as we consider its other function. As you can see, cancellous bone is pretty much a meshwork of trabeculae, so there is a lot of empty space between them. Fitting right into this precious real estate is bone marrow, or to be exact, red bone marrow, which is where blood cells come from, pit. I can't stress enough how sensible it is to have your essence produced inside your tough frame, rather than a specific soft organ.
If you somehow separated the compact and cancellous components of a long bone, the compact bone would behave like a straw, and the cancellous bone would behave like a straw-shaped sponge, hence spongy bone. When you bend a straw, it does not simply curve, but actually fold at a certain point. Curving happens more clearly when you stuff sponge inside, which serves as the internal scaffolding that dissipates the bending force. This is quite a long stretch from the concrete and steel example. but they are fundamentally similar as to how a composite material works. So efficient is this engineering that if you were to make the human skeleton using steel, it would get heavier by a third and still not achieve the same results. The catch here is that the magic only works when the two components go together. And so it is a huge, huge problem when either compact or cancellous bone deteriorates, as you will see in the following segment.
Earlier, we have established that bone is a highly dynamic tissue that has a constantly working construction crew. Within this group, there is an ongoing tug-of-war between workers that build and workers that remove. Usually, as you grow, the balance tips in favour of building, but that does not mean there is no removal. As you age, there is less building and, crucially, more removal. This tends to hit cancellous bone the hardest, drastically reducing bone density in what is called osteoporosis. Postmenopausal women are at high risk since they have reduced levels of estrogen, which curtails the removal of bone. Older men with reduced levels of testosterone are also at risk since estrogen is still needed for this purpose, and testosterone is a substantial source of estrogen. That said, you don't have to grow old to get osteoporosis, especially when your calcium intake is inadequate. You may know calcium for its bone-building function, but many vital organs like the heart also need calcium to function normally. Since the dry part of bone is 40% calcium, the skeleton is the calcium vault of your body. In a situation where calcium has to be rationed, bone has to give up its calcium share to save your vital organs, rapidly decimating its density. We know that normal, healthy bone should have both components intact. And so the substantial loss of cancellous bone leaves you with a rather fragile frame that collapses in the face of trivial impacts. Even when you're careful, your bones will just give up if they become too weak. This is evident when you look at older people with slumped necks, a telltale sign of neck vertebrae that are so eaten away they could no longer sustain the weight of the head, which is actually quite heavy when you think about it.
Bone problems do not kill you right away, but when the thing that props you up and moves you around is unwell, life becomes a daily struggle. Now that you know the way bone works, it's not hard to keep yours in a good condition. Calcium is a must and can be found in dairy products or leafy greens, but vitamin D is essential for absorbing calcium, so you should get some of that too. You can even ask the sun to make it for you on a good day. Of course, there's also the issue of exercise, which cannot be detached from any conversation involving health. In this case, you should prioritize activities where the skeleton has to support your weight against gravity, like running, walking, or climbing stairs. That and cutting the usual stuff like alcohol and smoking matters not just for your bones, but for health in general.
With that in mind, it's no wonder your bones can juggle so many tasks that any other material could never manage. It is an excellent composite material composed of compact and cancellous bone, each having unique characteristics that nevertheless combine to form something greater than themselves. And that ain't no ordinary grade. We're talking Eiffel grade here. But even the Eiffel needs to be maintained, and so do your bones. I hope you got something out of this. And if you are still here, please leave a comment and tell me what you think. Thanks for watching.